I am so excited about today's episode because it's about unveiling something really special. I call it my balance blueprint. And this is a strategy, a framework that I've been fine-tuning for years. And it's something that every New Year's, every birthday, often every quarter, sometimes every new moon, that I look at, that I bring myself back to. And what it is really this guide to crafting intentionally a life that is full of balance and passion and sheer joy. And hello there, it's Rebecca Cafiero, and welcome back to another episode of the Becoming You podcast, where literally every single episode is really designed to inspire and teach you to step into your fullest potential and to creating a life you really love. I am your guide, your host, and also a fellow journeyer on this path to becoming our best self. And I often feel like we live in this world that is constantly pushing us to do more. And I know I find myself often teetering on the brink of overwhelm and realizing that it's a conscious effort to choose to live the life that I want to live. However, much of my life, I have felt like true joy is just out of reach. And about a year ago, I really realized that it's not about doing more. Now, I will say I've realized this many times in my life, but I continue to remember it, that it is about aligning our choices and our time with what truly matters. And so I am so excited about today's episode because it's about unveiling something really special. I call it my balance blueprint. And this is a strategy, a framework that I've been fine-tuning for years. And it's something that every New Year's, every birthday, often every quarter, sometimes every new moon, that I look at, that I bring myself back to. And what it is really this guide to crafting intentionally a life that is full of balance and passion and sheer joy. And I am aware that sometimes balance can be BS. Maybe it's harmony is the word that you like to use. But I find that balance is not about perfection, right? And my hope is that through the next few episodes, through this series, you're going to find tools and frameworks and inspiration to silence or at least mute a lot of the chaos and to be able to cut through the clutter that we often find ourselves in our life, and really to get rid of all the shoulds, right? The shoulds that are keeping us from truly living and create a lot of noise in our life. So if you are someone that finds yourself like I did, that you're often juggling so many commitments, you're striving for success, and you just feel like joy is one goal away or it's just out of reach, then this is for you. And even though I'm sharing all of this here on the Becoming You podcast, I want to let you know that you can get the downloadable Balance Blueprint workbook to really dive in deeper and to be able to, whether print it out and put paper to, I guess, pen to paper, or if you want to, just go along with it while you're listening to this, you can text the word balance to 1-949-503-9882. Again, that's 949-503-9882. Just text the word balance and you'll get a copy to your inbox so that you can dive in deeper. But the Balance Blueprint, it's my strategy for redesigning my life. And I believe that we design our lives, but we have to be continuing to look at and optimize and kind of tweak what's working, what's not. So this is about transforming that chaos that you might be experiencing into clarity and really to creating a life that doesn't just work, isn't just functional, isn't even just successful, but where you're really thriving and feeling fulfilled even as you evolve. So whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a parent, or you just are someone that's like chasing your dreams, this framework is going to help guide you to a life that is full of joy and purpose. So in this first episode, we're going to be talking about what I call the obligation audit. And this is going to help you reclaim your time and your energy by conducting this obligation audit. And it's about how to define the commitments that are often really weighing us down and how to create space for what matters. And my hope is by the end of the next, 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to have a really clear understanding of how to say goodbye without guilt to the tasks, the obligations, even the relationships that are no longer serving you. And you're going to have the permission and the freedom to create time for what sparks joy in you, what lights you with passion. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by lots of the to-dos that you feel like it's never ending, or just those commitments that are draining you, this is going to give you really practical steps to changing that. So one thing I want to note, This is not about becoming more efficient. It will help you become more efficient, but it's really about helping you become more aligned with your values and the things that you love. So I know for me, often I feel drained or overwhelmed or weighed down by things that I've chosen. And so this is about giving yourself, again, that permission to unchoose them, to unselect the box. So again, remember, you can get the workbook by texting balance to 949-503-9882. That will just, again, help you dive in deeper to today's episode, today's lesson, and really implement this into your life. So I found myself, this has happened many times, but I found myself in the spring of 2022 at a point where I was breaking down. I had full is an understatement schedule, and two things happened. I had two opportunities that I could not say no to, and not from FOMO, but from real alignment. One was the opportunity to purchase a home in Palm Springs, which had been on my bucket list for more than a decade, and it was the right timing. And the second was I had an opportunity to co-found a startup. And both of these things I looked at. And by the way, before I was presented with these opportunities, I already felt like something's got to give. I am about to break down. If I get sick, the world's going to implode. And what this forced me to do is, one, in just creating room for these things that were really just divine opportunities. I knew that I had to acknowledge the tasks, even the small ones, that were taking up emotional and mental real estate, whether that was a 1-hour walk that felt like an energy drain. Actually, my walks never feel like drains, but those 1-hour appointments or even 30 minutes, whether it was some of the commitments that I felt aligned in when I took them on, but no longer felt aligned in. And I had to ask myself, and I encourage you to ask yourself, is what parts of my life feel like a heavy load? What are the tasks? What are the commitments that are just leaving me feeling depleted? Our energy is probably the best indicator of what is meant for us and what is not. And in doing this, it really set the stage for me of what is truly important as I redefine my obligations. But let's just kind of dive into the purpose of this audit, right? Like I said, this isn't just a simple calendar audit, because it's very easy to look at our calendar and be like, where can we be more effective or efficient? This is about really shedding light on what is taking up mental and emotional space and what is also taking away or giving us life, and making sure that we're aligning our time commitments and our obligations and tasks with things that bring us joy, or at least income, because often we're doing things that bring us neither income nor impact nor joy. And when you think about this, not only as time, but as emotional and mental real estate, because that's what it is, right? In our head, in our calendar. These can be things that are really simple that can be draining our energy over time. Some people call this invisible labor. Some people call this mental space. Invisible labor is this term that is used to describe work that's often not acknowledged. It's undervalued. It's unseen. If you're a mom here or a female entrepreneur, you're like, you are speaking to me. But these are the things that are often really essential to the functioning of our family, our organization, our workplace, our job, our career. And these are the things that weigh heavily on us. But I don't want you to just think about the things that you're doing that you're not getting acknowledged for. I want you to think about the things you're doing that drain you. So if you go to the workbook now, you're going to see this opportunity to pull up, looking at it now, basically an entire list. And this is where you're going to look at every single obligation. Now, I like to start with categories because it makes it a little easier to really brain dump it all out. You can also just do this with pen and paper, or, in the notes section of your phone, or voice memo, whatever works for you. But I want you to list all of the tasks you perform that are your domestic tasks, your home tasks, cleaning, cooking, running errands, whatever those things are, laundry. For me, feeding the dog. My husband feeds the dog, but I'm the one that gives her all of the treats and shampoos her and conditions her and brushes her and all of those things. So what are all of those? And again, even the smallest tasks, not only the things you do every day, but the things you do weekly, monthly, quarterly, even yearly. And the reason you want to mark down every single thing is they each take energy and time. Now, you can literally pause this if you want time to do this. Now I want you to look at what are your work or career obligations, right? The things in your personal or your professional life. So the meetings, the projects, the tasks, the subscriptions, the things you need to learn to be able to actually utilize the things you're probably paying for. And you're asking yourself, one, is this really essential? Is this in my zone of genius? Is this thing something that really needs me, my brain, my face, my voice? Or is it something that can be streamlined, delegated, eliminated? And we will get into the delegation, the elimination and the automation. Next is relationships. I think it's easy. We often think about these things in our households. We think about these things in our workplaces, our careers. We don't look at them in our relationships, especially if you are a empath, if you're a people person, right? So I want you to look at the interactions that you have that leave you feeling drained. These could be family gatherings. These could be friendships. These could be social obligations, civic obligations. These could even be the relationships you have with your neighbors, right? And look at these of which relationships feel nourishing. Which of these do you look forward to going to? Which of these, when they're on your calendar, you look at the week ahead and you're like, oh, great. Or you at least feel like good. Maybe you're not even feeling great, but you're like, good, this is something I enjoy. And which of these sap energy? Which of these do you look at? And it's not the 30 minutes or the hour, even the 10 minutes you're spending on it. It's the hours you're thinking about it up front. It's the how do I navigate this? How do I deal with this? Or do I even want to be doing this? And then I want you to look at your activities. Think about these in school as your electives, from yoga to volunteering. Look at these and review these things that you're doing outside of your work, outside of your home, maybe even outside of your family. These could be the fun things. And do these really, as Marie Kondo says, spark joy? Or are they simply obligations? Are they shoulds? I always say we're human beings and we need to stop shoulding all over ourselves. And then you can also do this with your finances. So this could be, downloading your credit card statement or your bank statement and looking at those small reoccurring expenses that might not be serving you, right? Or they're like the apps on your phone. Yes, you're only paying $3 a month, but you haven't used it in a year. And you downloaded it thinking this would be a great idea if I actually used it. And what you start to realize every time I do this exercise is either I'm paying for things that I no longer use or that I've never used, or things that I don't really, care about anymore, or there's a better thing I'm now using. And I often find when I do this that I get rid of anywhere from like 50 up to hundreds of dollars per month. And I will tell you, plan this in. We'll plan in doing this audit often. But again, this is not about just being the most productive, what's in your zone of genius. This is really about looking at what are the things that I'm spending my time, my energy, and my money on. And energy and time being the most important resource. You can make more money, but you cannot get back more time or energy. And now we're going to go into something that you've probably heard of before. This is the ADD method, and this does not describe the way that I operate, which is ADD. I built systems around this. This is probably one of them, but it stands for automate, delegate, delete. And the workbook has all of these in it where you can literally check them out. You could also add an S on this, which is swap, which is, again, swapping with your partner, swapping with someone in your business or your job. But this is where you start to look at where can I streamline tasks? Things like automatic bill payments, subscribing to a grocery delivery. I will say, I love the farmer's market. It brings me joy. But there are some things that if I get them from Safeway, I just don't really enjoy going to Safeway like I do going to the farmer's market and meeting the people that, grow my produce. So there are some of the things that you can look at that you can say, how can I automate these? Right? How can I automate? How can I just make this easier, especially if it either takes a lot of time or isn't something that gives you a lot of energy? So automate those things. Next is the delegation. Looking at your list and saying, what can I delegate? Now, I will tell you, this is an area to really understand, does this truly need me? Right? There's some things that, yes, you could delegate, maybe with your children or your spouse or even in your business, but is it the best if you delegate it? Because I sometimes find that there's some things with my kids, like I don't want to delegate their homework time. Could I delegate it to a nanny or some type of after school program? Sure. But I really want to know where they're doing well or where they're struggling or where, I can bring my uniqueness to it or ask my husband to. Are there things in my business that sometimes I really need to understand? And then maybe when I really understand it, that's when I delegate it out. So look at that and ask yourself, right? And then the other side is this really need me? Because sometimes there's things that we're doing because we can, but they're not the highest use. We can give them to someone that's going to bring more passion in or just bring more skill in or get it done sooner. For me, those are things like downloading Zoom recordings and uploading them into Kajabi or sending them to clients. I don't need to be doing those things, right? But I found that I used to delegate some of my email marketing and I really enjoy writing the emails as long as you're actually doing it. I will say if there's things that are on your list and you're just not doing it, it's better done than perfect, right? Delegate that out. So look at where can I delegate those household chores or the task, because delegation empowers other people to contribute. And often people want to. I think especially as a mom, and when I first became a mom, this is where I got really challenged, is asking for help or even just being willing to say yes when someone offers support. All right, now the hardest category is deleting. Because often I'm like, I can get more productive, I can automate, I can even delegate, but actually letting go of things. So I really want you to be bold here. I want you to cross off commitments that drain your energy without giving anything in return. Right? This is not just about being more effective or efficient. It is liberating to say no, right? It's liberating when I go through my finances. And by the way, I'm not about being cheap. I enjoy spending money on experiences, on coaching, on food, on education, on travel. But I'm like, what are the things that if it's $500 a month that I don't need, which is $6,000 a year, and our money doubles every 10 years, like that could be $1 million in my lifetime by cutting out that $500 a month. So, or it's something I can dedicate that money into that gets me way more return, whether financially or energetically. So the other is in our relationships. Often people have served a chapter in our lives and we continue to meet new people. And obviously, as we evolve, as we elevate ourselves, who we are, as we grow, we are going to energetically raise our vibe. And as we raise our vibe, we're going to attract higher vibe people. And so I think it's easy to want to like bring in new relationships while we're still maintaining old relationships. But just because someone has shared a past with you doesn't mean they necessarily have a space in your future. This also doesn't mean just cut people out, right? It's just asking yourself, am I spending time and energy with people that maybe no longer are really expansive, that no longer feel really good? And that doesn't mean, again, just dropping them. It's like you can invite them along for your evolution. You can invite them along for new things you're doing. But if they have no desire to go there, are you going to continue to spend the same amount of time? And I have had to do some relationship divorces or relationship audits where I left behind, whether it was groups or communities or even people, because they were anchoring me down. And again, I know this can be a challenging area. So I have a podcast called 3 Questions to Ask When You're Going Through Pain or Hurt. And often these are the 3 questions I will ask myself when I am looking at, is it the right time to move on? The last is with the obligations. So even obligations that seem like a really great idea and you can maybe talk yourself into or staying into, you want to look at, is it time to release these? I'm going to give you an example because I finally released it, but it took me years of not just the actual time I was spending, but the emotional labor and the time I was thinking about it. I joined a nonprofit when my son was not even one, baby, and I joined the board. And I loved it. At that time, it was the Palo Alto Menlo Parents Club, PAMP, and I loved doing it. I love being part of it. And even to this day, I'm so grateful because I met 2 of my best friends through that board and many other friends. And it was a great way for me to like provide resources to other parents while also being with my son. However, the membership or the commitment was supposed to be 2 years for the board, and I renewed. But after that second renewal, at about year 4, I was like, you know what? My kids are getting older. This isn't really something that's being valuable to me anymore. And I don't feel like I'm bringing as much value because I wasn't excited. If you're not excited or into something, you're probably not bringing value into it. So I decided I wanted to get out of it, and I had a really hard time. And I let myself be talked back to it, whether it was by myself or someone else. And I ended up the last 3 years I was on the board. I was on that board for 8 years. I ended up the last 3 years dreading it. And it was only about an hour and a half to 2 hours a month of commitment, but I think I spent like 6 hours a month thinking about it. So ask yourself, what is creating like that emotional anchor? What is draining me? What is weighing me? What is the kink in my energetic hose? And how can I release these things? And I promise you, when you look at discomfort or pain, which is often what we feel about, whether it's literally like unsubscribing for things or calling up and, quitting something or ending a relationship, you will go through short-term discomfort. And it will probably be a little bit more uncomfortable in the short term than not ending it. But if you look at the next 6 months, the year, or even maybe the short term of the next few months, ending that thing, going through that short acute pain is so much less pain than the long term. So find the courage. be bold, and make it happen. Okay, now you've created this list, right? You've got all these obligations. And I found the first time I went through this, I especially break into these categories, I had like 50 or 60 things. And then I've added more over the years. That was without even going into my finances. So I want you to come up with a system. And if you use the workbook, which you can text for, or it's probably in the link below to download it, it is really simple to like just literally check, automate, delegate, or delete. But you can also do this on like annotate this if you're doing it on paper. So maybe circle the things to automate, underline the things to delegate, literally cross out the things to delete, and then start today. What is one task you'd automate today? Or what is one thing you can delegate today? Or what is one thing you can remove today so that you can immediately create space for more joy and energy? And if you put them into those categories and you do one thing per day, you're going to find your life is radically different in 30 days. You're going to find that you have more space, more room for magic, more energy. And you're going to create room for what we're going to do next, which is called CPR. Right? You're going to create more room because if you start adding things on, even if they're things that bring you joy, when your calendar and your energy and your just mind and life is already overwhelmed, you're going to feel spread too thin. And you're going to really burn out on even the things that are bringing you joy. So this is about doing, again, what fills your soul with joy. And this part of the exercise is about removing those things or automating, delegate, and deleting them of what is draining you. Because this is not about doing less. I mean, it is, but it's not just about doing less. It's about doing what matters most to us. It's about creating that life that is intentional and aligned. And by doing this obligation audit, you are empowering yourself to reclaim your time and energy, to clear space for joy and creativity. And again, it's not just about checking things off the to-do list, because the to-do list will actually get smaller. This is about realigning your life to reflect your deepest values, your deepest desires. And again, remember, you can always go back and listen to this again or watch it again if you're watching it. But to get the full balanced blueprint to guide you through this process step by step and really dive deep, just text the word balance to 949-503-9882. And that workbook will help you implement everything we've talked about today and in the next episodes and lessons to come. And it will bring you so much more clarity. So thank you so much for joining me today. Stay tuned for our next episode and lesson where we're going to be diving in deep to the CPR